Daenerys. Daenerys Targaryen, in my opinion, is one of the most well-written female characters in the entire fantasy genre. With her, George R.R. Martin has created a strong and powerful woman, compassionate and determined, and yet one who is also flawed and imperfect in a way that makes her seem so relatable and incredibly compelling to the reader. Her entire journey is so captivating and well-crafted, going from a frightened little girl, enslaved and powerless, to the mother of dragons, a powerful leader and a conqueror of nations. Daenerys Targaryen, in my opinion, is one of the most well-developed characters in all of fantasy. Although this journey was poorly handled towards the end of Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen still remains iconic in pop culture today. The fact that she's so beloved has inspired spin-off shows like House of the Dragon, and even characters like Rhaenyra Targaryen are compared to her of how a strong, compelling female character should be written. Daenerys' engaging personality and complex flaws are some of the key reasons for why she's so beloved by the readers in the first place. So in this video, I want to examine some of the key characteristics that make Daenerys Targaryen such an engaging character in the books. I think that one of the main reasons why book fans love Daenerys Targaryen's character is because she is genuinely compassionate as a leader, especially in a world that is so uncompassionate towards those that aren't born into privilege. For example, she genuinely cares about the common people who support her, and that is pretty special given how they are often overlooked by other leaders who rule over them. The world of ice and fire is very brutal to the small folk, and many highborn lords are often cold and uncaring. Lords like Tywin Lannister and Stannis Baratheon often play their Game of Thrones without much concern about how their actions will affect the lives of the common people beneath them. It's because of this approach that these leaders seem so cold and uncaring. It's the reason why they aren't so well loved by the small folk who they rule. However, the fact that Daenerys Targaryen takes on the opposite approach, and the fact that she's so genuine about it, is precisely what makes her such a unique character in the story. Since Daenerys grew up in poverty, hungry and afraid, she can empathize with some of the experiences of the small folk who are often disregarded. She knows what it is like to suffer at the hands of the powerful, riddled with fear and sold into a life of slavery. Daenerys herself was sold as a slave by her own brother, who gave her to the Dothraki in exchange for an army and a crown.
I would let his whole tribe kill, all 40,000 men and their horses too, if that's what it took.
She knows what it is like to be disregarded and objectified. In the book, it is the reason why she's so compassionate towards her subjects, the reason why she's so determined to end the practice of slavery.
Let the priests argue over good and evil. Slavery is real. I can end it, I will end it, and I will end those behind it.
In a Game of Thrones, when the men of Drogo's Khalasar invade the lands of the Lazarene, Daenerys steps in to claim the enslaved girls and women of the villages, saving them from being raped and killed by the soldiers. Daenerys does this even though she's made aware of how much this act goes against the customs of the Dothraki war culture. In the book, Jorah Mormont says to her, "Princess, you have a gentle heart, but you do not understand. This is how it has always been. These men have shed blood for the Khal. Now they claim their reward." Across the road, the girl was still crying, her high sing-song tongue strange to Dany's ears. The first man was done with her now, and a second had taken his place. "I will not have her harmed," Dany said. "I claim her. Do as I command you." Daenerys tries to save these women from the horrors of war, claiming them to prevent them from being essayed by the men of the Khalasar. The act itself speaks to how gentle and compassionate she is towards the suffering of others, a consistent aspect of her personality throughout the series of books. In A Dance with Dragons, while she is ruling Meereen, Daenerys even goes to tend to the sick and dying outside of the city walls. She sends healers to those that are dying and offers comfort to those who mourn their dead. But her compassion doesn't only extend to those that are outside her city walls. Daenerys also cares about the servants who tend to her personally. She shows kindness especially towards the young girl Missandei, whom she constantly wants to protect and shield from harm. In A Dance with Dragons, when the siege of Meereen begins to intensify and become worse, Daenerys tries to offer Missandei a way out of the city. "Say the word, my sweet, and I will send you from this awful place. I will find a ship somehow and send you home to Naath. I would sooner stay with you. On Naath, I'd be afraid. What if the slavers come again? I feel safe when I'm with you." Safe. The word made Dany's eyes fill with tears. I want to keep you safe. So this is a part of the reason why so many fans love Daenerys' character. She is kind and gentle, and she is compassionate towards her supporters. She genuinely cares about her people, and she wants to be a good ruler, even for the small folk of her kingdom. This is why she fights so hard to end the practice of slavery, because she knows what an evil institution it is, especially since she herself has experienced it and been a victim of it. She is intolerant of the practice, seeking to end it by any means. She wants her people to be happy and free, and she wants to rule over a kingdom where she is loved as a liberator. It's a beautiful dream, perhaps a little naive and idealistic, but it says a lot about the kind of person that Daenerys is: compassionate, kind-hearted, and just. This is why book fans love her character as much as they do. However, just because Daenerys is so compassionate and understanding as a ruler, that doesn't mean that she is weak or ineffectual. Though Daenerys begins the story as a frightened little girl, abused and enslaved by the men around her, she eventually grows to be a strong and capable leader, more confident in her decisions as the narrative continues. She can be considerate and gentle towards the helpless and the weak, but she can also be fierce and frightening towards those that defy her, dealing with her enemies like a true Targaryen, with fire and blood. Astapor, Yunkai, and Meereen are all sacked and burned when they refuse to abolish slavery and bend the knee. Daenerys gives them a chance to comply with her demands, but when they refuse, their cities are razed to ash. She is strong and unwavering when it comes to her ambitions, and those who stand in her way are put to the sword or burned by dragonfire. Illyrio Mompatis says, "The frightened child who sheltered in my mansa died on the Dothraki Sea, and she was reborn in fire and blood." This dragon queen who wears her name is a true Targaryen. In a short span of days, she's conquered Astapor, made Yunkai bend the knee, and sacked Meereen. Mantarys will be next. Daenerys is a strong ruler, a true Targaryen queen, but her strength doesn't just pertain to the command that she has over her army or her dragons. It also pertains to her will of character and determination to succeed. Daenerys' goal to end slavery affects the economy of Slavers Bay. It has far-reaching consequences for the continent of Essos, and it even affects the economies of other places beyond that. As a result, conspiracies are organized in an attempt to get rid of her. Envoys try to persuade her, and even assassins are sent to kill her. Despite this, Daenerys does not waver nor budge from her goal to end slavery. She remains determined to end the act, regardless of what the consequences may be. She even says as much to Zarozan Doxos when he comes to Meereen to try and persuade her to abandon this childish mission. Zaro, at first, tries to convince Daenerys that we curse the rain when it falls upon our heads, yet without it, we would starve. The world needs rain and slaves. However, Daenerys replies, Slavery is not the same as rain. I have been rained on, and I have been sold. It is not the same. No man wants to be owned. Daenerys then goes on to refuse every offer for her to leave Meereen, choosing to stay and face the wrath of the East in her quest to end the practice of slavery. She remains strong and determined in her convictions, sometimes shaken but never moved. Her strength and determination inspires people, emboldening slaves from faraway lands to rebel against their masters. In the books, one person tells Tyrion that, behind the black wall, lords of ancient blood sleep poorly, listening as their kitchen slaves sharpen their long knives. Slaves grow our food, clean our streets, teach our young. They guard our walls, row our galleys, and fight our battles. And now, when they look east, they see this young queen shining from afar, this breaker of chains. This is another reason why book fans love Daenerys' character so much in the series, because she is strong-willed and determined, absolutely unwavering when it comes to pursuing her goals. Daenerys Targaryen is a strong female character, determined, resilient, and powerful. But she is also imperfect and morally complex, a great character with a lot of flaws. In fact, it is precisely her flaws that make her such an interesting POV character, because they add a layer of complexity to her characterization. At the end of the day, Daenerys is a child in the books, which means that she is inexperienced in governance and politically naive. Though she has dreams of ruling over a kingdom where the lords are fat and prosperous and the small folk are all happy and free, these ambitions actually reflect her youth and innocence. In reality, Dany is unprepared for the complexities of rulership and the unintended consequences that come with her decisions. For example, her goal to end slavery, while noble and good, actually devastates the economy of Slavers Bay and worsens the lives of some of the people that she's freed. Some of them even wish to be returned to a life of slavery, petitioning her to allow them to sell themselves back to their old masters. These sort of consequences are unexpected by Daenerys, and they shatter her idealistic dreams, forcing her to confront some harsh realities about ruling and being queen. Daenerys is compassionate and cares deeply for the small folk, aspiring to end slavery and set them free. However, her naivete and inexperience often lead to more disasters, and she doesn't always handle it well when her plans don't work out. While she is strong and strives to be a just ruler, it's not always clear if her decisions are as just as she believes them to be. Sometimes, she looks like she's as ruthless as the men that she seeks to purge from the world. A great example of this is when she crucifies the Masters of Meereen, punishing them all without giving a single one of them a fair trial. She assumes that they are all guilty of the crucifixion of the slaves, and she doesn't listen to her advisors when they try to convince her otherwise. Is Daenerys truly a just ruler, or is she just a self-righteous tyrant? These types of questions add a layer of complexity to Daenerys' character, and they make her more engaging and interesting to read about. Her flaws and imperfections are what make her so compelling, and I believe that this is a part of the reason why book readers love her POV chapters so much. The last reason for why book readers probably love Daenerys' character so much perhaps pertains to the magical role that she plays within the story, her future importance in fulfilling the prophecy of ice and fire. Of course, this prophecy is what the series is named after. the ice being the White Walkers and the animated dead that threaten the world of the living, the fire being Daenerys and her dragons, alluding to the role that they will play in defeating this evil. This is absolutely a part of the reason why so many book fans are so captured by Daenerys' storyline, because many of us anticipate how it will unfold in the upcoming books. In the series, the prophecy includes a savior named Azor Ahai, who is a legendary hero that is destined to defeat the evil that comes with the cold. The prophecy says that Azor Ahai was born amidst smoke and salt, and that to defeat the evil of the cold, he had to wield a burning sword that was forged from a blood sacrifice. The sacrifice was made with the blood of Azor Ahai's wife, Nissa Nissa, and Azor Ahai was only able to wield the sword after he drove it into her heart. This is the sacrifice that enabled him to set the sword ablaze, for Azor Ahai to be able to fight the darkness and save the world of the living. Therefore, pertaining to the White Walkers, many book fans believe that Daenerys is the Azor Ahai of this particular story. She is the one destined to defeat the threat of the White Walkers in the north. As evidence, it's clear that Daenerys was indeed born amidst smoke and salt in Dragonstone, and her Nissa Nissa could be seen as either Drogo or Rhaego, her unborn son who died at childbirth from black magic. In A Game of Thrones, she mercy kills Drogo after seeing that he is in a vegetative state, and it's insinuated that she had willingly risked the life of a child to try and rescue that of Drogo's. In the end, she uses Drogo and the life of her unborn son as sacrifices, along with Mirri Maz Duur, in the ritual to birth her dragons, which could be interpreted as her flaming sword in the Azor Ahai prophecy. In this case, the flaming sword is not literal like it is in the prophecy, but rather it's metaphorical in that it describes Daenerys' dragons, which themselves are constantly described as fire made flesh. George R.R. Martin loves making prophecies unfold in unexpected ways, so it's possible that all of this is correct and that Daenerys really is Azor Ahai. This epic destiny and magical aspect of Daenerys' storyline is something that book readers love about her character and which fascinates them about her arc. It's an aspect of her story that makes people engage with her POVs, especially since Daenerys has so many magical dreams and visions which sometimes confirm this destiny. Her visions in the House of the Undying are just one example of how important magic and prophecy are in her story. Some of these visions foreshadow how her narrative will unfold. So it's the magical role that Daenerys plays in the story that makes book readers love her character and want to engage with her POVs. Daenerys is one of my favorite characters in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, particularly because she's so flawed and fascinating to read about. She is not a Mary Sue character who can do no wrong. Instead, she feels like a real person who is struggling with the power that's been bestowed upon her, the power for fire-breathing dragons, and the political power that she gains from commanding them. And yet still, despite all of the struggles that she faces in trying to manage all of that power, Daenerys remains a sweet and generous girl, a compassionate leader to her people. She fights for them and seems determined to free them, remaining steadfast on this goal despite conspiracies against her, which threaten her life and safety. She remains strong, determined, and resilient in her convictions, and I think that these characteristics make Daenerys such a beloved character in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments section, and if you like this video, click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel to watch more content in the future. Thank you for watching the video. Peace.